All right, let's work on legato bowing. Now, there are something on the order of 14 of the bowing styles according to the French enumeration of them. But, and we know a lot of them. We know détaché and we know spiccato and we know probably marcato, maybe martelé. But of all of those and the other bowing styles, legato is arguably the most important one in a lot of the music that you're going to play. It's such a staple of so much of the writing, particularly the melodic writing for cello. And the core of legato is sounding like all the notes are being played on one bow. Legato literally means slurred, but when a composer asks for you to play a passage legato, or sostenuto for that matter, they're asking for you to make it sound like all of them have no breaks between the notes, even when you have to change bow. So that takes some practice. It makes us sound as much like the human voice as what the various orchestration books say we can sound like. Do you know how much the great orchestrators say that the cello sounds more like the human voice than any other instruments? It is the tenor instrument. Sounds very much like the tenor voice. And we're only going to create that illusion if we have a very nice, sustained legato sound. So, basically, one of the things to keep in mind about legato is that it's not just a matter of not having a space between notes when you change bows, but that you not even diminuendo between them. So I'll give you an example. If I'm practicing a D major scale, slur 2, and I practice it like this, I didn't actually put a space between the notes, but I diminuendoed between them, and that still breaks the sense of a long connected legato line. So what we're trying to create is the sound as though I'm playing all on one bow. So I have to go, I have to make sure not to diminuendo before the bow change. So how am I preventing a space or a diminuendo? I think our human tendency is to, I'm coming up on the near the end of the bow, I better slow down. And we slow down our bow speed just before we change directions. And that almost invariably creates either a space or a diminuendo or both. So if anything, if you fight that tendency by actually speeding up into the bow change a little bit. So if you go something like, I'm accelerating a little bit into each bow change. Of course, if you overdo it, then that's still going to draw our attention to the bow change. But you do it the right amount, and it can really hide those locations and make it sound truly sustained. Another thing is that sometimes when we've been taught on the cello not to have a locked wrist, okay, but then when we go from down bow to up bow, we make the change all at once, and we do something like, here's how not to do it, in other words. If I do something like that, that is, well, it's not conducive to a good legato, among other things. So I have to make that change from kind of down bow position to up bow position more gradually throughout the course of the entire stroke. Just like when I walk, I don't shift all my weight onto one foot and then throw the other foot forward. Instead, your balance is always somewhere in between the 2 feet, between the 2 legs. So watch my wrist. If I play, now I'm exaggerating. I'm really exaggerating. But hopefully that shows you, that gives you the idea of how even the moment you start a down bow, you start changing to up bow position. And when I start an up bow, I immediately start heading back to a down bow position Just like if you were doing something like popping a towel or a whip, the last thing to find out about that change of direction was the very end of the towel or the whip. And then finally, I think another very good thing to try with legato is to add in a little element of a circle in some direction or other. So we can make a slight string crossing motion for a circle. If I go, you see how that's a string crossing motion, but I'm not actually changing strings? A little bit of circularity there can go a long way. And then also, don't do too much of this, it's easy to overdo it, but a little bit of almost a figure 8. My point of contact on the string will stay the same, that's important. But otherwise, I make a little X with the bow, tiny little X, and I go. Again, don't overdo it, and it's easy to overdo it. Keep your point of contact the same with the string. But the merits of it is it's going to help you find ways to be flexible where you previously were not being, ways to anticipate emotion where you were previously being wooden about it or rigid. And that additional awareness of what could be moving in a circular manner as opposed to a flat, straight manner is always valuable information. So you'll practice your legato stroke during scales, and you will permute where the bow change is. So in other words, don't always practice slurring note 1 to note 2 and note 3 to note 4. Mix it up. Try slurring note 2 to note 3 and note 4 to note 5, like this. And likewise with 3-note slurs, change which note you start the 3-note groupings on, so that your ear can always be listening for, wait, did that sound as smooth when I changed bows there as it did when I didn't change bows there? That's your gold standard. Legato bowing. Happy practicing.